Alrighty, y'all. The second half of the NBA season is about to begin. I guess technically the second half has begun, but the post All-Star break stretch towards the playoffs is about to begin, and I'm excited to talk about what the best things are to watch, basically, here over the next couple months of basketball as we progress towards the playoffs. Things that I'm going to be watching, the main stories that are kind of the most interesting to me around the league over the next couple months, and I think there's a lot to talk about. So we'll start in the East with a couple things, and then we'll bounce over to the Western Conference and talk about that as well. And I do apologize for not uploading it all on this channel the last few days before today. Been upgrading like crazy on my 2K channel. Tons of content came out over there. I've been really focused on getting as much as I can done over there, and that's taken away from this, which I apologize for. But we're back, and we're going to be back to being consistent. Would really appreciate it if y'all do subscribe. With that being said, let's get right into it, and we'll start first and foremost with the race for the tank. Basically, this isn't even really an Eastern or Western Conference thing, but we'll start with it. For example, teams like the Washington Wizards, who traded Kyle Kuzma at the deadline, teams that are more committed to tanking as well, but still playing kind of well, like the Trailblazers and the Nets, and teams like that that aren't good teams but are playing decent basketball. Chicago Bulls, who I think are going to win too many games despite kind of sucking to really put themselves in a good position. It's going to be interesting to watch a lot of these lower tier NBA teams over the next couple months, and whether or not they fully commit to tanking, how things shake out around the league in the race towards Cooper Flag, and really the race towards a bottom four record in basketball, which as of right now is being won quite easily by the Wizards, and then the Pelicans, Jazz, and Hornets feel relatively comfortable in all honesty. The Raptors, I mean, for as bad as they are, and probably are likely to be a little worse, are going to struggle to be a bottom four team if they continue to play guys like Scotty Barnes, RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickly, etc., significant minutes on a night-to-night basis. Now, I don't expect Brandon Ingram to play at all for the rest of the season, so that will help them be worse considering they got rid of Bruce Brown, Kelly Olynyk, guys who were helping them win some games, and they will be bad. But like, you would have thought the Nets would fall down to the bottom four. The Nets are just, they didn't trade Cam Johnson or Nick Claxton. Guess they didn't think they'd get the return that they wanted for those guys, and I don't totally blame them, but they're kind of winning too many games still. And I think they're in a spot here where like teams like them and the Bulls and the Blazers that aren't very good are not going to be bottom four teams. And it feels like it's very much shaking up towards, it's either going to be the bottom four that we have right now, or maybe the Raptors sneak in there over one of these other teams if one of these other teams winds up getting hot to an extent here in the second half of the season. But I wouldn't be shocked if it really just shakes out as Charlotte, Utah, New Orleans, and Washington, which, by the way, none of which, in my opinion, are very good destinations for Cooper. I think of all of them, Utah would be the most interesting. You know, they love their white boys. So that would be, if nothing else, an interesting destination. He would be very much a franchise guy there. But I think whatever team gets Cooper Flag, he's going to be a franchise guy. And the race towards the top in this draft in general is something that is absolutely worth following. Now, the main Eastern Conference storyline that I am truly interested to watch is the race to the top of the East between the Cavs, the Knicks, and the Celtics. The Celtics are 5.5 games back of Cleveland. Number one, can they catch Cleveland? Is Cleveland going to continue their hot start and continue to play high-level basketball, having won 4 in a row going into the All-Star break after a little bit of a rough stretch? Can they keep it up with DeAndre Hunter? And will that addition really kind of push them over the edge and make them look like serious threats to the Celtics in the playoffs? As good as the Knicks have been, they're still 2.5 games behind Boston. Can they try to make a push and start getting their record better and give themselves a chance at a top 2 seed? Because I think if they were to get home court advantage over the Celtics in a second round series, it would heighten their chances of winning that series pretty exponentially. I just think the race to the top of the East between those 3 teams is going to be a fascinating storyline to watch as well, because it could very much shape up, or it could very much shape the way that the playoffs play out in the Eastern Conference, really is what I'm most interested in. And the honest truth is, there's only about 6 good teams in the Eastern Conference anyway. It's basically the top 5 we see here, maybe Detroit, depending on the night, and Orlando, if they ever get it figured out, maybe we'll have an argument as well. But the East is just not that interesting besides the top couple teams. Maybe the Pacers and the Bucks can make a run, but really for me, it's Cavs, Celtics, Knicks, and I want to see how things shake out in the Eastern Conference with those 3 teams. Now, moving on to the main storylines that I'm really most interested in, we'll start with the bad in the Western Conference, and we'll end with the bad as well. But the Phoenix Suns are a story, just a team in general, that I'm absolutely fascinated by here in the second half of the season. They are kind of falling apart. KD was almost traded at the deadline. They're a game and a half out of the play-in right now. They're clearly in a spot that is just shaky at best. And I think if things don't go well in the second half of the season, they don't make the playoffs, KD's getting traded, Booker might get traded. They would have traded Brad Beal a long time ago if he didn't have a no trade clause, but they can't really do that. Like, this team's falling apart. They don't have very many draft assets at all in the future, and all the assets they do have are going to be late late first round picks. Like they just don't really have any real value to the guys left in their roster besides their big two of KD and Beal. And it's not really, or KD and Booker, and it's not really a big three anymore. Bradley Beal's not a big three type guy. And so this is a team that if things go poorly in the second half of the season, which feels pretty realistic, they're 2 games under 500 right now. If things go badly, this team's not doing anything, at least not anything good. They're going to be blowing it up, trading their only guys to assets and trying to build towards the future. And the Suns are going to be in a pretty disastrous spot if that is what winds up happening. So that's a storyline. That's just a team in general that is absolutely worth watching here in the second half of the season. On a brighter side, Jimmy Butler, Steph Curry, and the Golden State Warriors are fascinating to me. A team that has been playing pretty decent basketball, in all honesty, since the addition of Jimmy, a team that looks a little bit resilient. They've won 6 of the last 10 games. I still don't think they're an elite, amazing team, but they do now have that secondary option, that big scoring threat at the rim, attacking the rim, getting to the free throw line, all things that the Warriors have struggled with, and a mix, I think, that really helps them defensively as well with Jimmy. Just, I think, stabilizes them on both ends of the court, makes them more competitive, and playoff Jimmy's a thing. And Steph being able to be a little less responsible for everything offensively should allow him to flow a little bit easier and maybe take over games a little bit more at times when need be. They will get Kuminga back at some point too, and not having to trade him for Jimmy Butler wound up being, I think, a pretty good thing for them. This is a team that, if they can get fully healthy and if they can figure some things out on the offensive end of the court, could be dangerous in the Western Conference playoffs, and they're going to be fun to watch. I'm pretty interested in the Golden State Warriors here as we go down the stretch. Obviously, see if Steph can give himself one last chance to make a run. Jimmy Butler might be the player to give him that opportunity. Who knows? We'll see what happens. They're going to be a fun team to watch as well. And then one other positive, for the most part anyway, is the Los Angeles Lakers. The storyline with the Lakers is really going to be how good can they be? And the reason that's the storyline is because despite having LeBron and Luka, and really, I think, a gluttony of shot creators and wings, they don't have bigs. They just don't. And so is it going to be a lot of, oh, we're going small and technically LeBron or Dorian Finney-Smith is our 5, but we can 5 out and we can space the floor and dominate offensively? Are we going to see a lot of that down the stretch of games and in the playoffs? I wouldn't be totally shocked. Is Jackson Hayes going to be able to prove himself at that high enough level? Alex Len was pretty terrible his first game as a Laker. Can he figure things out and become a contributor? Is Christian Koloko going to be a guy that they rely on? I don't think so, but sometimes I kind of wonder. In general, I'm concerned about this team, but I also think they have the potential with LeBron and Luka to be unbelievably good. And if they can solve the defensive end of the court enough and that lack of big men enough, they are a team that absolutely still has the capability to compete for a title this season. So I know they're a team that is talked about way too much, but the Lakers are very fascinating. Absolutely. And they are absolutely a storyline to watch. But in my opinion, the number one thing to watch, and call me biased because I'm a Mavs fan, but the whole Dallas Mavericks versus their fans situation and the disaster fustercluck that has become this team because of Nico Harrison's poor decision making is something that is just, it's incredibly depressing as a Mavs fan, but you also can't look away. It's incredibly fascinating. And every single Mavs big on the team is injured. Derek Lively, Daniel Gafford, both expected to miss at least another 6 weeks. Anthony Davis, who knows when he'll be back? It could be another month. They don't have anybody healthy. They're still fighting. I give guys like Kyrie and Exum and players like that ton of credit. Like, there's a ton of grit and ton of fight out of this team. They do not give up at all, and I really like these players and support them for it. But the front office has put them in a horrible spot, has turned the fan base against the team in a way that I've really never seen, in all honesty. And I'm not just saying that as a Mavs fan. I truly don't think I've ever seen a fan base this angry with their team like this. And it's going to be, you just have to watch. You can't take your eyes off of it. As depressing as it is in a Mavs fan, this could easily end up as an absolute train wreck. And I hope it doesn't, but it would serve Nico Harrison right if it did. I don't really know. They're the team to me, and call me biased if you want, but they're the team to me that is absolutely worth watching in the second half of the season. Because if they can figure it out and compete, then maybe Nico Harrison was justified in some of the things he said. Still doesn't justify the trade. It's still one of the stupidest trades in NBA history, but they're going to have to win a title the next couple of years for it to even be arguable. And as of right now, that doesn't look like it's going to happen, but who knows? If they're healthy, they're going to be really good defensively, and they could be interesting. Things could go multiple ways for the Mavs for sure. They could go up, and they could go really far down. And we'll see what happens. So I hope y'all did enjoy the video. If you did, make sure you hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. Be back with more NBA content very, very soon. I appreciate y'all. Peace.